Hi, I'm Brenda Treffren, lead firearm instructor with Majority Arms Firearm Training, and I would like to go over the 4 firearm safety rules that we teach in our courses. First is rule number 1. All guns are always loaded. It doesn't matter who hands you a firearm, your firearm instructor, your spouse, your friend. If they were to say to you that this firearm is unloaded, it is indeed loaded. The only time a firearm will ever become unloaded is when you personally check your firearm and that gun stays in your possession. So I want to go over the proper sequence of unloading a firearm. First, since we're handling a firearm in an indoor environment, we're going to have no live ammunition around the area whatsoever, and we're going to be using our dummy rounds, or also they're called snap caps. So the first thing you want to do is remove the source of ammunition. If you do not first remove the source of ammunition, anytime you work the action, you're actually loading the firearm. So first you remove your source of ammunition. Second is you lock the action open. You want to take a peek in your chamber, but we also want you to stick your finger in the chamber, okay? If you were in a low light circumstance like a basement in Alaska, you would look in there, it's shadowed, and you'd say, oh, I don't see a round in there, when you actually have a round in there that did not extract. So you need to physically feel that chamber and know that you don't have a round in there. Also, stick your finger up the magazine well or the source of ammunition so you know that you have indeed unloaded the firearm. Now that I have personally checked this gun, this firearm will remain unloaded as long as it stays in my possession. People are killed every year in America with an unloaded firearm. And that is because the gun is indeed really loaded. So we need to do our due diligence to ensure that every firearm that we're handling in an indoor environment is unloaded. The mistake that people make is they work their action to remove that round that's in the chamber, then remove their source of ammunition and say to themselves, all right, my firearm's unloaded, when indeed it actually has a round in the chamber. And this is the round that kills somebody every year in America. The second rule of firearm safety is never point the firearm at anything you are not willing to destroy. With a rifle, it's very easy because you have a nice long barrel, you know where your muzzle is. With a handgun, it's a lot more difficult because now you have something very short. If you're on the range, you could turn around and say, Brenda, what did you say? And now you've pointed your firearm at everybody to the left of you. So we have to be very, very diligent that our muzzles of our guns are always pointed downrange and in a safe direction. And you would never, ever, ever point a real firearm at another human being unless you are in fear of your life. The third rule of firearm safety is really the most important rule of firearm safety and is the most violated rule of firearm safety. And that is to keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. It's very natural when somebody hands you a firearm that your finger goes to the trigger because that's really where the finger is supposed to go. You actually have to train to learn to keep your finger off the trigger, okay? When you are on your target, you're on your trigger. When you are off your target, you're off your trigger. On, off. And the reason why it's so important is threefold. It has to do with what's called interlimb interaction, where our body with our nervous system is designed for the right side of our body to work together with the left side of our body. So with the sympathetic squeeze, if I had my finger on the trigger and took my cell phone to call 911, my right hand wants to help my left hand, and so my right hand is going to flinch and squeeze the trigger. Second, we have a loss of balance. If you were to trip and fall and you have your finger on the trigger, you're going to fire the gun, okay? You keep your finger off the trigger, you trip and fall, nothing happens. The third reason why it's so important to keep your finger off the trigger is the startle response. If you're walking around your house because you think you heard a noise, you've got a little bit of a shake going on, and you've got a cat jump out or a family member, and you've got your finger on the trigger, you've now shot and killed somebody or something that you love. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. And when we say off, we want high and off. So if you were shooting on my left side, you're not going to see my finger down here by the trigger guard, okay? Because if your finger's down here, you're one trip away from firing the gun, okay? So we want it nice and high up along that slide so you can't see the trigger from my left side. All right, the fourth rule of firearm safety is always be sure of your target and what is beyond your target. It's really easy when you're on a range that you have a dirt berm and you know your targets are going into a dirt berm. In an urban environment, it's very, very different. You have to be sure of what's around, behind your target. And those are the 4 firearm safety rules that we will be covering and teaching in our course. Thanks for watching.